Welcome viewers. Today in this session we will be talking about restriction enzymes. What are restriction enzymes? How the restriction enzymes were discovered from bacteria? How the bacteria prevents itself from being cleaved by its own restriction enzymes? How the host control modification and restriction acts? What is the nomenclature of restriction enzymes and what are the different types of restriction enzymes? Before going into all of these, first let us see what are restriction enzymes. Restriction enzymes, they are a very important group of enzymes which has played a very pivotal role in the recombinant DNA technology. With the help of restriction enzymes, now we can clone any gene from anywhere. So let's move to restriction enzymes. The first topic which needs to be covered was what was the era like before the discovery of restriction enzymes. Before restriction enzymes were discovered, there were different types of methods adapted for breaking the DNA. The methods were chemical methods, physical methods, or certain endonucleases available at that point of time. However, all of these methods had certain disadvantages as they cleave the DNA randomly and very short fragments were available at that point of time. So, in order to look or search for better methods, scientists kept on searching the enzymes from different organisms. So, let's now move to the history of restriction enzyme. So, in order to understand better the different kind of enzymes working on different types of organism, Werner Arbour first discovered restriction enzyme. He, however, discovered the type 1 restriction enzyme. He was trying to study the host control restriction and modification system when he came across this group of enzymes. However, his enzyme could not work in a very beautiful way as the type 1 used to cleave the DNA randomly. It was followed by another scientist known by the name of Hamilton Smith. In the year of 1970, he discovered a very useful restriction enzyme, which was the restriction enzyme or the endonuclease R, discovered from the strain of bacteria Haemophilus influenzae. He saw that when he used endonuclease R, it could cleave the T7 bacteriophages into specific fragments which can be or could be resolved by polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. Further on, with his enzyme, Daniel Nathans worked and he also found that endonuclease R could cleave the simian 40 viral DNA into specific fragments. So, in this way, the first restriction enzymes were discovered. For this, the three scientists, Werner Arbour, Hamilton Smith and Daniel Nathans, was awarded Nobel Prize in the field of physiology or medicine in the year of 1970. Let us now move to what are restriction enzymes. As the name suggests, these are a group of enzymes, but they have got a specialized function associated with them. They are capable of cleaving the double-stranded DNA at certain points. These certain points are nothing but specific nucleotide sequences which are known as its restriction site or recognition sequence. So, an enzyme which cleaves the DNA at certain basic point or certain specific points is called a restriction enzyme. It is an endonuclease and thereby it can cleave the DNA anywhere at particular point. Now let us move to how does it cut the DNA. It basically cleaves the phosphodiester backbone of the DNA and thereby yielding fragments. As a result, the fragments or the products generated by restriction enzymes can have or generally have a 5' end at one of the fragment and a 3' end at the other fragment. Now let us move to how the bacteria prevents itself from being cleaved by restriction enzymes. Most of the restriction enzymes reported till date have been discovered mainly or majorly from bacteria, archaea. So, the bacteria must prevent its own DNA from being cleaved by restriction enzyme. The next question which comes in, why do bacteria produce restriction enzyme? In order to make itself more resistant to foreign organism, the bacteria secretes or synthesizes restriction enzymes. These enzymes, what happens when it finds a foreign organism or a foreign DNA, cleaves the DNA at certain points. But the bacteria needs to protect itself also.
Ma'am, can I ask you a question? How do bacteria prevent its own DNA from getting cleaved by restriction endonucleases?
Well, the bacteria is very intelligent. It is able to protect its own DNA by synthesizing a modification or a modifying enzyme. So what does it do? It has the same nucleotide sequence in itself. It prevents the cleavage of its own DNA by its own restriction enzyme by methylating certain nucleotide sequences. As a result, the restriction enzyme is able to differentiate between its own DNA and the DNA which is coming from foreign or from other microorganisms.
Ma'am, why do restriction enzymes do not work on us?
The restriction enzymes do not work on us because we already have methylated sequences in us. So there are enzymes like DAM and DCM. The DAM stands for, they do the methylation of certain adenine residues, and the DCM, methylation of cytosine residues. So we already have the enzymes in us. So as a result, the bases at the certain recognition point of restriction enzymes are methylated, and hence these enzymes are not able to cleave the DNA within us. Now let us move to how the restriction takes place again with the help of another diagram. So as shown in this is a bacterial cell. Now we can see the bacteriophage, this is the lambda DNA. So this is DNA is getting integrated, or rather it is injected into the bacterial cell cytoplasm. So what will happen? The cell is secreting the restriction enzyme. As a result, the restriction enzyme are cleaving the DNA molecule into smaller fragments. Now these smaller fragments are further degraded by another enzyme present within the bacterial cell. And this linear DNA double-stranded molecule is its bacterial own DNA. So it is preventing the attack from its own restriction enzyme by methylating certain bases at certain points. So in this way, the DNA, or rather the bacteria, is able to control the cleavage of its own DNA. Now let us move to the steps of host control, restriction and modification system. Let us understand this with the help of a schematic diagram. So suppose we take bacteriophage lambda. We know that bacteriophage lambda is able to infect two strains of, or rather it is able to infect Escherichia coli. For this experiment, we take two strains of Escherichia coli, strain K and strain C. Now what happens? If we now generate progeny virus on strain C by infecting bacteriophage lambda on E. coli strain C, we collect the phage lysate and then we titrate it on again two particular strain, that is the strain C and strain K. If we go for the results and observe the result, there is a difference in the number of plaques formed on strain K and strain C. Why is it so? Now, when the phages are being grown on strain C, they are able to reinfect the strain C with equal magnitude. However, when the progeny phages are collected from strain C and titered on strain K, there is a reduction in the number of plaques formed. Why is it so? Because here the DNA which is present within the cell of strain C is able to get modified because of the presence of certain restriction enzymes here. However, when we are plating or collecting the phages and plating it on strain K, it is becoming restricted by the strain K. However, when the progeny phages collected from the growth on strain K is replated again back on strain K, it is able to grow profusely and the number of plugs increases. So in this condition, the phages are no longer restricted by strain K and they become modified so that they are able to grow abundantly on the strain K. So in this way, we can see that modification is a non-heritable change which allows the bacteriophage to grow profusely on a particular strain. While restriction is, because of the presence of restriction enzyme, the phage DNA is getting cleaved by the enzymes and hence the number of plugs formed is reduced. So always the restriction and modification system works simultaneously in a bacterial system. Now let us move to the other sections or other types of restriction enzyme. So before that, let us now discuss how the restriction enzyme acts. So first, the restriction enzyme, it just randomly binds with DNA sequence. Now as it slides along, the double-stranded DNA molecule, when it comes across the recognition site, it binds very tightly to the DNA sequence with the help of hydrogen bonds. Then the magnesium ions participates and it helps in the cleavage of the DNA after the specific binding of the enzyme to the DNA. So after it cleaves, the cleavage takes place with the help of magnesium ions. After the cleavage of the double-stranded DNA, specific fragments are generated which might have cohesive ends or blunt ends. Let us now move to the nomenclature of restriction enzymes. How are restriction enzymes named? There was a problem with the scientists as the number of restriction enzymes grew in number. So after the discovery of a large number of restriction enzymes, there was a difficulty in finding a name for the restriction enzyme. Such a kind of a nomenclature was first adopted by Smith in the year of 1973. A simplified version is in use today. So let us see how the nomenclature of restriction enzymes is given. For example, let us take a very common restriction enzyme, that is EcoR1. As the name suggests, so the E, the first letter of the word EcoR1, that is the capital letter E. The E stands for the generic epithet, in this case Escherichia. The second two letters, that is the C and O. So they are written in small and they stands for the specific epithet, that is coli. So the restriction enzyme was first isolated from the bacteria Escherichia coli. The strain is written in the form of capital letters, that is the capital letter R stand here for the strain of E. coli. So from where the enzyme was first discovered. So what was the strain? RY13. And the Roman numeral 1 denotes that it is the first enzyme to be discovered from Escherichia coli strain RY13. And hence the nomenclature for all of the other enzymes discovered follow the same set of pattern. Hence, the EcoR1 nomenclature or naming is given to this particular RM or restriction modifying enzyme. Now let us move to the nomenclature of other restriction enzymes. So here we can see there is a list of restriction enzyme. Now more than one restriction enzyme is discovered or they are identified from a particular strain of bacteria, the nomenclature changes in the Roman numeral portion. Like we have EcoR1, EcoR2, EcoR5. So this means from the same strain of Escherichia coli, that is strain RY13, the first restriction enzyme was discovered, followed by the second restriction enzyme, and EcoR5 stands for the fifth restriction enzyme being discovered from the same strain of Escherichia coli. So in this way we can see how the nomenclature is important for the restriction enzymes. It helps us to distinguish between the different restriction enzymes differing in their properties. Now let us move to the characteristic features of restriction enzymes. So what are the characteristic features of restriction enzyme? As discussed earlier, restriction enzyme recognize a specific sequence on the DNA, after which they cleave the DNA at that particular specific sequence. The sequence which the restriction enzyme recognizes is known as its restriction site. The restriction site has certain characteristics. That is, it has got certain important features associated with it. So what are the characteristic features of restriction enzymes? The first feature is most of the restriction enzymes have restriction sites which are palindromic in nature. What is a palindromic sequence? The DNA is double-stranded. Now, the sequence which is read from 5' end to 3' end on one strand is similar to the sequence present on 5' end to 3' end on the complementary strand. Hence, the DNA sequence at the palindromic site has two-fold symmetry. Let us see this example. Shown in this diagram, the 5' sequence is GAATTC. So this is on one strand. The complementary strand also have the same sequence, that is the GAATTC. So here we can see the axis of symmetry is two-fold. So thereby most of the commonly used restriction enzyme acts on palindromic sites. Let us now move to the classification of restriction enzyme based on restriction sites. So how can we classify enzymes based on their sites? The first classification is based on the number of nucleotides present in the restriction site. Generally, the restriction sites are of 4 nucleotides long, or it can be 6, or some enzymes are there which recognize a 8 nucleotide long restriction site. So in this way we can classify restriction enzymes. So the most common enzymes are those with the 6 base pair recognition sequences. So like we have BAMH1, we have EcoR1. So as shown, they are isolated from the different strains of bacteria and their recognition site contains 6 nucleotides. And hence, the most of the nucleotides are, or the sequences are, palindromic in nature. The next is those with 4 base pair recognition sequences. These are a little rare, like that of the HA3, then you have HPA2, HEPA2, HA3, etc. Followed by the restriction enzymes which have 8 base pairs in them, like that of NOT1. The NOT1 is able to recognize a 8 base pair long restriction site, followed by BSTX1. The unique feature of BSTX1 is that within the restriction site, there is a spacer region. As shown in this diagram, there is a spacer region of nucleotides. Surrounding the spacer on either side, there are symmetrical sequences. So the BSTX1 recognition site contains this characteristic feature. So this is one classification of enzyme based on the number of nucleotides or the features of nucleotides present in the restriction site. The next is on the types of restriction fragments the restriction enzyme generates. There are mainly 3 types of enzymes: those which can produce sticky ends, those which can produce blunt ends. Among sticky ends, there are 2 subdivisions, those with 5' overhangs and those with 3' overhangs. So let us take up one by one all these enzymes. The first one is SMA1. The SMA1, on recognizing its own restriction sites, cleaves the DNA and produces blunt ends. Blunt ends means there are no overhanging single-stranded DNA. On the other hand, if a cut is made with BAMH1, it recognizes the recognition site, and as we can see at the 5' end, there are single-stranded region. The single-stranded region may be of from 1 to 4 nucleotides long. So it is a 5' sticky or 5' overhang restriction fragment. On the other hand, on digestion or restriction digestion with PST1, another enzyme, it produces 3' cohesive or sticky ends. The 3' cohesive or the sticky ends is it generates single-stranded DNA which might be from 1 to 4 nucleotides long at its 3' end. So here we see another type of classification of restriction enzyme depending on the type of restriction fragment it generates. Now let us move to another classification of restriction enzyme which are used very popularly nowadays. The type is isochizomer. The term isochizomers are used for those group of restriction enzymes which recognize the same recognition site. That is the two different enzymes, but they are fighting for the same restriction site. So this group of enzymes are known as isochizomer. The first enzyme which is discovered is known as the prototype, and the other enzymes which are discovered after the first enzyme and recognizes the same restriction site is known as the isochizomer. Let us understand this with the help of a diagram. So as we can see, there are two enzymes, SPH1, BBU1. So they are recognizing this particular recognition site. Now as we can see, both of the enzyme, though isolated from different bacterial strain, are able to cut at the specific restriction site, and that too at a particular specific point. Hence, the two enzymes are fighting for the same restriction site. So these two are isochizomers. Let us now move to neochizomer. So as we can see, the neochizomer's example is SMA1, XMA1. So both of them, they are recognizing the same restriction site, but they are cleaving at certain different points.
Ma'am, why neochizomers are called the subsets of isochizomer?
Because they recognize the same restriction site. So as in this diagram, we can see both the enzymes are recognizing the same restriction sites, but they are cleaving at different points. Now let us move to the other, that is the isochordomer. The isochordomer are enzymes which are recognizing a slightly different recognition site, but they are generating the same cohesive ends or the ends after digestion. So in this way, we can see there is another classification of restriction enzyme based on restriction site. Let us now move to the another characteristic feature of genomic DNA. That is, the presence of sequence is recognized by restriction enzymes. Now, the lesser the number of restriction or the nucleotides in the restriction site, the greater will be probability of an enzyme cutting it. So those enzymes which have recognition site or which have 4 base pairs in their recognition site will cleave the DNA more randomly than those restriction sites which have 6 or 8 base pairs in their nucleotide sequences. But in reality, or generally, this is a theoretical portion, but in reality it differs because it might not be the uniform distribution of nucleotides in the sequences, or sometimes the enzymes have preferences for the sequence present at different portions of the DNA molecule.
Ma'am, is it in any way possible for a restriction endonuclease to cleave a site almost identical to its actual recognition sequence?
Yes, it is possible, it's seen that enzymes, restriction enzymes, under certain non-optimal conditions, suppose there is a change in pH or the presence of chemicals in its solution, so changes the enzymes or the activity of restriction enzymes. They might cleave the sequences which are bearing homology to the cognate, that is to the restriction site, and cleaves the DNA. So, in this case, we will get non-specific fragments too. The loss in the precision or increased activity of restriction enzyme is known as the star activity of restriction enzyme. So, as shown in this diagram, we can see that when restriction enzymes are incubated with DNA under non-optimal conditions, it results in star activity. So, the restriction enzymes is very important and it is a double-edged sword. It helps us, or it gives us the enzymes which are useful for cloning of DNA. Along with, due to the presence of modifying enzymes, the efficiency of recombinant DNA in cloning host might be reduced. So, it is not only the enzyme, the restriction enzymes, but it is also associated with modifying enzyme. So, we need to keep both the modification and restriction to be kept in mind while working with restriction enzymes.